Looking for a guaranteed way to create content that resonates with your audience? Start a podcast. Interview your ideal clients and let them choose the topic of the interview. Because if your ideal clients care about the topic, there's a good chance the rest of your audience will care about it too. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. I'm your host for today's episode, Logan Lyles. I am joined today by Trey Campbell. He is the CEO of OneSource Virtual. Trey, how's it going today?
Good morning. Good to be with you, Logan.
Hey, we are excited to have you, Trey. Really excited to jump into this hot topic of automation across functions within businesses, large and small. It seems like automation is a hot topic in a lot of different areas. So I'm really excited to have you share your expertise in not only, where you guys have applied automation at OneSource Virtual, but some of the lessons that you guys have learned because you are helping clients with automation and bots in different functional areas. Before we jump into this topic and have you share some of your lessons with the audience today, I would love for you to provide a little bit of background on, what you and the team at OneSource Virtual are up to these days.
Sure. So OneSource is a services company. So we call ourselves Tech-Enabled Services. We provide a suite of services around Workday software, which is a ERP platform that is focused on the human resources and finance areas of enterprise companies. So we do all sorts of things for our clients. We put in the software, which can take, several months to a year, depending upon sort of how expansive and how transformational you want it to be, to providing operational transaction-based services around the software. So we process payroll, we do garnishment, we help folks with benefits administration, just all sorts of things, automated accounts payable, anything that they need to get more value out of the software is really our business. So it's very operationally intense, lots of transactions flowing around. I think we support some, 1.8 million or so employees of our clients. So there's a lot of folks out there that depend on us to process transactions for them and do it the right way.
Yeah, like you said, when you have a software that runs so much of your business, you alluded to the implementation time. It's not an easy transition. I've been in organizations that have made, a switch from one main line of business application to another, and it's not a task that you undertake lightly. It's something that needs a lot of hand-holding and attention to detail in order to make that transition smoothly, right?
Absolutely. So you're dealing with all of your employee data. If you're doing finance, you're dealing with all of your cost structure, all of your financial transactions. So it's mission critical in terms of getting it right. And oftentimes the clients want to transform the way they're doing things, right? So they use the software as an opportunity to fix things that have been, legacy processes that are either old or out of date and unwieldy or what have you. And so the more you sort of use the software as the catalyst for that, the more you have to think through how your new processes are going to work and ultimately, what your approval chains are going to be when you go to do a particular transaction. So that's when it gets a little bit more complicated because you're thinking through the future and how you want to change and at the same time, configuring the new software. Mm-hmm. So even if that all goes well, you have to prepare, the managers and the employees to use it. right? It's all foreign to them. So they may have new processes, they may have a new way to do things. And so there's a whole change management aspect that has to go on as well, because when we flip the switch, there's no having two systems. You got to go to the new one, and people have to be ready to transact on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, that merger of where technology, process, and people, it's a tricky intersection at times. And as you mentioned, especially in what you guys do, you're dealing with massive amounts of data, which I think, a lot of our listeners, whatever size organization they're in, we can all associate with just kind of drowning in data, no matter what our functional role is these days. So as you guys, Trey, have experienced this yourself, experience trying to handle massive amounts of data for your clients, we're going to talk about automation and specifically robotic process automation today, touch on application of bots, which seems to be, a very hot topic. So let's dive right in there and tell us a little bit about, where automation has played a role in your company's business growth internally.
Yeah, well, the company is only about 10 years old, so it was a disruptor from the beginning and continues to be that way. So you've got a lot of folks out there with legacy systems and things like that they have to work around. We didn't have any of those constraints, so we were focused on automation from the beginning, and we've done a tremendous amount within our own applications of automating data flows back and forth between various systems, aggregating them, reporting to things like tax agencies and things of that nature. So we have always been viewed as an innovator that heavily uses automation. What oftentimes happens, though, is you're really you're restricted by how much development you can do in those systems and what sort of scarce resources you have. What we're moving to now is much more of an RPA type approach to augment what we've already done in the systems to go across systems. So, there's some great tools out there. We just announced this month, a partnership with Blue Prism, which is one of the top RPA vendors. And we're going to use it to go into our manual processes, things that we have humans, at the intersection point between applications, and start to automate flows of data, and start to automate our checking of data, because what we do is very dependent on inputs. Right? If we don't get the right inputs, it's kind of a garbage in, garbage out approach. So we need to do a lot of auditing and error checking. We need to do a lot of translating between systems.
Right.
So what we're going to be doing is looking for those areas where we're very dependent on humans, where things are happening in a sequence, and we can, in essence, program a robot to do that very thing. And that's what the new tools give us a great opportunity to do.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like, there's this movement from automating processes, within one application or one function. But one of the challenges that, I know a lot of organizations in several different functions often deal with is, as our tech stack grows, moving information from one system to another to eliminate silos. That's where, as you pointed out, a lot of human intervention typically seems to happen. Is that kind of the trend you see moving forward, where bots and automation will be able to help information moving back and forth between systems more so?
That's definitely a huge area that we're focused on, is, because we don't sometimes own the application, therefore automation around it becomes difficult. We have to go sort of, into a middleware type of approach or an overlay software in order to go across systems. So that's a big deal. Even within really strong software packages like Workday, which does human resource type functions, you've got things that have to be checked, right? So one of the big areas for us is audit and analysis around filing accuracy. So do we have everything that we need to process payroll? Do we have the right address? Do we have the right social security number? Are any of the do not perform this type of transaction things in play, right? Because there are certain things that you can't do in order for the payroll to process well, characters that are invalid. So every time, and I don't think there's anything more mission critical to a company than getting their payroll right. So every time you run this, you have thousands and thousands of data fields that may have one of these problems. And the software doesn't, necessarily check for that. We do that as part of what we do. if we can use a robot to go and look for these things that are called the top 6, frequent errors that we find, have them distill that so that we can quickly fix it. It's a huge move forward in quality, right? Elimination of errors, but also speed and tracking. So even when there's only one application involved, there's all sorts of things that have to be done manually today that I think we can automate.
Today's growth story is about Lilliard Insurance Agency. The biggest challenge for one of their B2B sales agents was finding contact information for businesses that fit his target profile. He was running out of time to meet his monthly sales goal, so he turned to simple internet searches. Too often, the information he found was old and unreliable. He was spending too much valuable selling time looking for email addresses and phone numbers that turned out to be inaccurate and unusable anyway. The rep, Sam Hoover, heard about Sales Genie from his manager, and that's when everything changed. Sam started using Sales Genie's powerful database access to build targeted lists and get the contact information he needed to work new leads. He was able to profile his best customers to find prospects that looked just like them. He even used Sales Genie to find ways to reach them with direct mail, email, and online marketing campaigns. Sam immediately increased his monthly sales production by 200%. Can Sales Genie help you drive similar sales results? Probably. Head over to salesgenie.com/B2B to get a demo and a free customer analysis. All right, let's get back into the show. So Trey, as we jump in there to talk a little more about, the application of bots, RPA, robotic process automation, and, AI, I think a lot of different things pop into people's heads, on a wide range. How would you kind of help people set the framework for, the what's what of all this technology? What should come to mind? What's kind of some of the misnomers out there maybe about bots? And then we can talk a little bit more about, the tangible applications.
Well, I think everybody's sort of heard about the bots and things that are cool and all of that. I think, what people don't usually understand is that, like anything else, there's a technology there. You have to learn to use it. You have to have specialists. You have to have process folks who can go in and say, this is the sequence that I want to follow. These are the applications, how I access them. So there's a know-how piece of it that I think also is part of getting into this and using it on a broad scale. So I think people are attracted absolutely to the notion of, hey, I'd love to get manual stuff out of my operations. And, this goes, for any business, right? Any aspect, any functional area of any business where you've got lots of manual stuff. But, getting into this RPA, understanding what it is, having the time and focus to do it is part of the barrier. So one of the things that we're going to do as part of our service to our customers is offer that to them, right? So we'll have folks that will have already designed certain process robots. We'll have folks that can help them if they want to do something on their side, give them access to the technology, make it a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm. So what I hear you saying there is, bots are just like any other technology. It's not just throw it at and apply it to a problem. There's a process for implementing bots just like any other technology, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you've got to have a place to host it. You've got to have, security around it, all those things. I mean, you're dealing, at least in our world, you're dealing with very, very sensitive data. Right? Mm-hmm. I think everybody understands, the recent moves by the various governments to really amp up the security of our data because of all the leaks that we've had. So when you're working with it, the antenna have to be very high around security and where you're going to put these things, how it accesses the data, and how you're going to keep it secure. So that is, all absolutely part of the expertise that you have to have as well.
Mm-hmm. So we talked a little bit, Trey, about where bots and automation can help in moving information from one system to another, where, there have typically been a lot of fact checking, a lot of human touch points. What are some of the other areas where there's a high probability of success? Since you guys deal with folks and data in so many different functional areas, what are some of the things that you think people should be on the lookout for? Maybe this is a good area for the application of more automation and this bot technology.
I'd say, you come down to a set of characteristics that make things, highly attractive for a bot. Clearly a repetitive manual sort of action, one that happens in a predictable sequence, right? It doesn't change, so they can't, even though things are getting, with the AI component, things are getting a lot more flexible in terms of what the bots can learn and do. But, those things that are highly repetitive, manual in nature, across applications, and are able to be fit into a sequence are highly attractive for those. The great thing about the bots is they never sleep, right? So they run 24 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
And humans unfortunately need sleep. So people have been doing all sorts of follow the sun sort of approaches with respect to moving offshore, and hey, folks over in the Far East can do things while we're sleeping. That's all true, but this brings it, I think, to a whole new level of just 24/7, constant processing around those things that you can put into this bot format.
Well, on the flip side of that, Trey, what are some things, and maybe it's just an application on the flip side of, if they don't fit those, three general criteria that you mentioned there, then maybe it's not a good application for a bot or for added automation. But are there some areas where either your team, Trey, or you've seen customers try to apply automation and then backed off and found that it actually wasn't as successful as they had hoped in a certain functional area or in a certain type of application?
I think the more you get into situations where there are highly variable directions based on either an input or an answer, that makes using a robot more difficult. So
Mm-hmm.
there are certainly situations where, hey, I might give one of three answers, and we can configure the bot to do any of those three. But if there are 50 of those things, depending upon what the customer is looking for, what the process is looking for, that that artificial intelligence is saying, read the context, understand exactly what's behind it, and being able to vector that to the right place is a challenge, at least at the moment. So what we don't want to do is use this extensively at the interface with our customers. We
Mm-hmm.
want that to feel very, very personal. We want that to be judgment-based. We want to have instant understanding of the context. When employees call us, when our customers' employees call us, they're looking for either an answer or an action to be done. And
Mm-hmm.
we want that to be very easy for them. We don't want them to struggle with,
Mm-hmm.
talking to a machine or the machine getting it wrong or what have you. So
Mm-hmm.
in those areas, the high touch areas, or where there's a high variability of direction based on, the circumstance, we probably won't pursue it as aggressively as we will in these other areas where they're, behind the scenes, transaction based, repetitive tasks.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. The more variables in the direction that come into play, not only the more work in training that bot, but the more probability of misdirection or misapplication in those different scenarios. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think that makes a really good distinction for folks as well. Trey, as people start to, we've all got automation in some form or fashion, in our businesses, bots, as you mentioned, from payroll to accounting, to chat bots in a marketing setting. This application is starting of this technology. Since you mentioned earlier that, kind of throwing this technology at a problem or at a process doesn't necessarily just work. It takes more thought than that. What are some of the things that you think folks should be thinking about as they're implementing, testing, and applying robotic process automation or any sort of bot technology or automation in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think for your sales and marketing audience, I personally am a little reluctant to do a lot, as I mentioned, with the customer interface. I just think the more you try and make that robotic, the more it's not going to make the connection with your prospect or your customer or what have you. So I'm not a big fan there. But as far as those things that, there's so much happening in the web now with social media, with all of the stuff that happens with the automated things that we see in our face every day when we're on the internet. It's clearly something that magnifies your reach in the marketplace, enables you to get to more people, enables you to get your word out, that much quicker and more broadly. So from that standpoint, I think everyone's going to be using it. It's just a question of where does it make sense for your business, and then how do you get started?
Yeah. Well, Trey, I think some of the practical things that you shared on, where to apply automation, how to think about implementing it. This has been great information for our audience today in thinking about where can they apply bots, how should they be thinking about it, and kind of digging into this hot topic a little bit. So I really appreciate you sharing your expertise in this area. Obviously, you guys have had good success with automation fueling your growth at OneSource and launching into new areas with RPA. If anybody listening to this, Trey, would like to follow up with you, stay connected, ask any bot related or any other questions of you, what would be the best way for them to reach out or go about doing that?
Sure. I mean, they can contact, obviously we've got, our website is OneSourceVirtual.com, and that has lots of information. And then we'll be launching a new website here shortly called rpass.com. So that'll be really wrapped around if you're interested in the robotic process as a service type of topic. That'll be a great place. And then obviously people can, reach out to me on LinkedIn, Trey Campbell. I'm out there every day. So I'm happy to field any questions or talk in more detail about what we're doing.
Awesome. Well, Trey, thanks so much. I appreciate you coming on the show, sir.
Logan, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Digital marketing agencies have a tough job. You have to stay on top of the latest marketing strategies for your clients and your agency. What if there was a way you could address both at the same time? Imagine your agency putting out content with greater quality and quantity. Envision bringing your clients a turnkey solution for one of B2B marketing's fastest growing media strategies, podcasting. All those clients asking for your help with their account-based marketing efforts? Picture being the first to bring them the idea of content-based networking, showing them the proven strategy for breaking into their most coveted accounts. Here's the concept. Sweetfish Media is looking to work with a limited number of innovative agencies interested in a new partnership model. We produce a podcast for your agency at no cost. You introduce the power of podcasting and Sweetfish services to your clients. Everybody wins. Learn more at sweetfishpartners.com.